What it do, 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 what it is, family. This is Chief Kalinago with another video, another live, sharing information, man. First off, let me give thanks to the Great Spirit. It's a beautiful, beautiful day to be alive as usual. I hope you're enjoying your continuation. Uh, Let me just make sure everything is good with this phone right here. All right. Bring this up here like this. All right. So I'll give everybody a chance to chime in into the build. All right, we have a lot to discuss. All right, like I said, big up Zazie. The information I'm about to share right to you, I'm with you guys. I just think it's hey, it's pertinent that you know the information. So allow me to say sak pase, mabrikwa, osiyo, halito, shalom, aloha, what the deal is, wagwan. So let's get into this, man. Please share the link on your various platforms. Okay, I'm gonna break down the American Empire. I'm gonna speak of the United States, and I'm gonna talk about the SF 181 form because a lot of people seem, to not get, exactly what the SF 181 form is. So I'm gonna break that down. And I'm also going to speak of, and for those of you, like I said, man, I've been doing a lot of research, so please, by all means, support. You know what I'm saying? Show your love, show your support. I personally don't think that, I should be, charging for that information. So I'm sharing the information, again, I do the research, bring the information that you need. And that stuff you're not going to get in school. That stuff you're not going to get in college. So, by all means, please support. All right. Now, a lot of times, we hear about the Moroccan Empire, we hear about the American Empire, we hear about a Mexum this and a Mexum that. I'm gonna, debunk all of that. I'm gonna break all that stuff down. You know what I'm saying, and put all that in perspective to let you know exactly what all this stuff means and how, okay, it pertains to the original people of this land. All right. Let me give you, a few of you, some highlights. The first few people, you know what I'm saying, that normally come on the feed before I get into anything. I like to just once again give some shout outs and give some love. You know what I'm saying? So here we go. Get your definitely get your highlight on the platform. Because like I said, on this platform, we all in the light. All right. So that's just what it is. All right. So here we go. Sharing some information. By all means, go ahead, share that platform, share that on your platforms, let the people know what's up. Okay, I'm trying to, give some people some more time so we could get a bigger audience, while we are doing this. In the meantime, let me see if I could take that. I wonder if, you know what, on my Facebook, I think I'll probably have to do that, but I'll probably wait. Okay, so I'm just gonna wait a couple of minutes, man. Like I said, get some more people on the chat. That's all. All right. Because there's a lot of information that's going around, and a lot of people don't have a true understanding of what it all means. All right, a lot of forward people are, and please don't take this the wrong way. Okay, a lot of forward people are monkey see, monkey do, and hey, all right, I'm gonna put up my hand to say I have been there. Okay, I have been there. So by no means I'm throwing shade. By no means I'm belittling anybody. We've all been there. You see, when you don't know and you come into information and you don't do your extensive research or you don't do your due diligence, then you fall into a place where you just do what you see people doing or you do what you hear them doing. All right. And don't know the significance of all what you're doing. So I'm breaking all that down for you so you're able to make more conscious or more intelligent decisions, all right, when you're so-called doing paperwork or whenever you're articulating yourself as who you are, all right, or your status rather, all right. A lot of people have those questions, and so hopefully with this build, that will kind of clarify a lot of those things for you. Okay, so once again, like I said, the live that I do, we don't necessarily have to have 500 people. We don't have to have 1,000 people. Eventually, when it get there, it will get there. All right. But for now, I'm really content. All right, with the people that come to the live and share the energy, and it means a lot to me. So I just want to say thank you. All right. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the American Empire. All right. When you hear, Moors speak of, well, the American Empire or the Moorish Empire, a lot of people don't really know what that means. All right. We're going to break this down in regards to what the empire means and how they were able to claim that as their empire. All right. And then we'll talk about the United States. And like I said, we'll talk about the SF 181 form. So seeing that we've been here, all right, we don't have a beginning. We have always been here on this land from time immemorial. All right. And I've showed you in many videos and in books, articles, documents, all right, that literally alludes to us being here for so long that it is being said, or it has been said in prehistorical documents and books, that we actually the original people of the planet. You see what I'm saying? That life literally started here in the Americas. Okay, so I'm just letting you know that. Now, with that being said, you have to start looking at timelines. That one of the best ways to really put a lot of this in perspective is to start looking at timelines. You have to look at timelines. Go back and see if you could find wars in the Americas before a certain date. And once you start doing that, you'll realize, hold up, I could go into Europe. I could go into Africa. I could go, into Britain, the kingdom of, the kingdom of the British Empire. I could go into all of these different times and find timelines of wars. But yet still, when it comes to the Americas, you cannot find timelines of wars in those times. So now you have to draw a conclusion. It could be one of two things. It's either they didn't have these wars on this side of the world. Okay, I'm not saying that we didn't have our personal disputes among clans and tribes. I'm not saying that. All right, but I'm talking about worldwide wars. Okay, we didn't have that because there's no timeline of those wars. And trust me, I've been doing extensive research looking for that and can't find it. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and we're going to go as far back as we can to see what was happening during certain eras and times right here in the United States. And it doesn't speak of any wars with other countries or territories per se. All right. So let me share my screen. Share screen. Here we go. And all those links are actually in the description of the video, so you'll get to see them. All right. Okay. Here we are. First one. All right. So we're looking at American involvement in wars from the colonial times. And let us read a little bit. All right. And that is from thoughtco.com, American involvement / wars, colonial / times, present, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, all that is in the link below. It's going to be below the video. All right. Americans have been involved with wars, both large and small, since before the founding of the nation. The first such war, sometimes called Metacom's Rebellion or King Philip's War, lasted 14 months and destroyed 14 towns. The war, tiny but today's standards, ended when Metacom, open brackets, the Poconoket chief called King Philip by the English, close bracket, was beheaded. The most recent war, America's engagement in Afghanistan and Iraq following the 2001 attack on the World Trade Center, is the most protracted war in the American history and shows no sign of ending. All right. Now, the reason why I'm reading that, I'm just showing you, like, when they really start talking about wars in America, they're not going past anything past the 1400s. Everything that they talk about really is literally those type of wars right here. So they're really starting up major. When they speak of the Americas, they're speaking of the United States. All right. So now you see they start giving a timeline of July 4th, King Philip's War, New England colonies versus the Wampanoag, Narragansett, and Nipmuc Indians. So now you start seeing they're dealing with those Indian wars. So once again, when you talk about a timeline of wars in the Americas, it only start getting involved mostly so with the United States. They're not talking about wars before the United States. I haven't found any major war, all right, and I'm talking about in the 1400s or even in the 1300s. I just can't find no record of that, okay? But let us go to the next slide. I'll come back to this here for a second. We're going to go to North America, 1400 to 1600 AD, all right? And we have a little timeline here, okay? Algonquin language cultures, Iroquois language cultures, Southeast Mississippian culture. They're giving timelines, okay? Archaic cultures, Southwest Puebloan cultures, Northwest Coast, late marine cultures, Arctic Thule cultures. So once again, we are not seeing anything in regards to wars here, all right? And we are looking at North America 1000 to 1400 AD. We are not looking at wars. They are just talking about a timeline of cultures. We're not seeing any wars. So what I'm saying is this: I'm not insinuating that tribes or clans didn't have personal rifts. I'm not saying that. But I'm talking about in regards to outside influence. I want to make sure that's clear. I haven't found any significant dates to give any type of wars. All right. Here's another timeline. That's from Oxford Art Online. We have 8000 BC. Beads made by clam shells, engraved bones, and pebbles represent an early interest in the body decoration in present-day Wyoming. Originally, these beads were strung onto cords through holes made with pointed stone tools. 700 BC to 600 BC. Figurines of abstract form and little facial definitions made of unfired clay are found in places such as Cowboy Cave in contemporary Utah. 27,000 BC, 2700 BC rather, to 1700 BC, monumental temples are built at the pre-Columbian period site of La Galgada in the Peruvian highlands. These temples are later converted into tombs containing very early examples of textiles and jewelry. 2300 BC, red slipped ceramic figurines, often of women with elaborate hairstyles, made by the people of the Valdivia culture of coastal Ecuador, are the earliest known pottery statues of humans in the Americas. 2000 BC to 1100 BC, figurines typically of animals made of split twigs wrapped in a manner similar to that used to fashion baskets are produced in the Great Basin region of North America and are occasionally found pierced by a sharp object. 2000 BC to 250 BC. Among the earliest examples of Mesoamerican pottery are the containers and figurines found in the burials at the Telco near Mexico City. The statues of often represents richly ornamented females as well as acrobats, people wearing masks, and humans that appear misshapen. All right, I don't know what that is, but I'm showing you all that to show you that all of these timelines that they're speaking of the Americas, we are not talking about wars. So it could be one or two things. Either we were a peaceful people, and once again, I'm not saying that we didn't have a little, clan beef. I ain't saying that. All right, I'm not saying that. But it's either we were not a warlike people. In other words, we didn't war amongst ourselves so much, where we had all these internal wars. All right, that's one That's one theory. Or the next theory is because the world, the outside world, they didn't know about us. Now that is a possibility, since in 450 AD we were not on the world map, because they didn't know the extent of the Americas. So in 450 BC, and I have the maps which I went to the Library of Congress, and I have that to validate that argument, that they didn't know about us. At that time, the world was known as Asia, Europe, and Asia, Europe, and Libya. Okay, Asia, Europe, and Libya in 450 BC. That was known as the world. So all this is important because now we're looking at a timeline. All right, let us go look at wars. All right, fought in Africa. Now, what I could do, what I was able to substantiate was I could get a timeline of wars fought in Africa, but there's no wars fought in the Americas. Peep the game. All right, I'm going somewhere with this, so please, bear with me. Okay, let us look at some wars fought in Africa, 264 BCE to 2011. All right, the first Punic Wars, 264 BC to 241 BC. That's the first Punic War. The Rome against Carthage. 218 BC to 201 BC. Second Punic War, Hannibalic War. Rome against Carthage. 149 BC. Third Punic War, Rome against Carthage. All right. And now that's in 533 to 534, the Vandalic War, part of the Germanic War, the Byzantine Empire against Valdelic Kingdom. 1248, summer to 1254 March, Seventh Crusade, part of the Crusaders, Muslims against Christians. All right. So once again, right here, as you could see, all those people here literally are the same people. They are just different religions. Again, legion, remember what legion is. A religion is an army. So they're different legions, meaning armies fighting each other. All right. And then we had a big split between those legions, meaning armies, and one was Muslim and one became Christian. But they are the same people, same foundation. They are all legions. They are armies. Okay. Now we have 1270, July 1270, 30th of October, siege of the Tunis, 8th Crusade, part of the Crusades. Muslim against Christians again. 17. That's in 1798 July to 1799 October. Egypt campaign, part of the Napoleonic Wars. France against Great Britain. 1879, 11th January to 1879, the 4th July Anglo-Zulu War. So we're talking all those wars that's in Africa. All right, we don't have to come up to the present dates. I just wanted to show you a few of the early dates. So once we start coming into a more recent timeline, you will see how Islam and Christianity come into play. All that started over there. All right, that's why I said I'm going somewhere with this. Okay, all that it started over there. Christian and Islam was not part of our spiritual systems. Okay, yes, it did come before 1492. Islam came before 1492, but Christianity came after 1492. But they were always fighting on the other side. The legions, armies, okay? The troops. That's all a legion is. So religion, once again, is an army. Christian is an army, okay? And Islam is an army that are being presented as what we call religions. People think it's all about faith and going to heaven. It ain't got nothing to do with that. They are armies, okay? That's bottom line. Facts, all right? Now, let us look at the timeline of wars fought in Europe, 499 BCE to present day. Okay, we have 499 BCE, we have the Greco-Persian Wars. Greek city-states against the Persian Empire. 431 BC, we have the Peloponnesian War, the Athens against Sparta. Then you have 395 BCE, we have the Corinthian War, Athens against Sparta. All right. Then we have 335 BCE, we have the wars of Alexander the Great. Now, if it's true what's being said that the Pale Man were in caves all these times, from his earliest times he was in caves, then it is safe to say that we are talking about heavy melanated people that were fighting each other. Okay? If that's not the case, then that whole theory of the Pale Man was in caves got to be a lie. All right? So it's either it has to be owned that the Pale Man was in caves, all right, and then it was heavy melanated people fighting each other, or you have to debunk, okay, the theory of the Pale Man was in caves and say, you know what, it was heavy melanated people fighting against the Pale Man back in those days. And I'm talking about the right here. I'm talking about the Greco-Persian Wars, all right. I'm talking about the Peloponnesian War. We are talking Athens against Sparta. Is that heavy melanated people fighting heavy melanated people, or is that heavy melanated people fighting the Pale Man? Who knows? I don't know. I'm just going based on what we were told and what we were taught, that the Pale Man was in caves. All right? I don't know that for a fact, so I'm just saying. I'm just going to leave it as that. All right? Because this is not the basis of this lecture right here. I'm just showing you timelines compared to the timeline of what was happening in the Americas. We didn't have no wars on record. You see what I'm saying? So they couldn't have known that we had beef amongst our so-called Indian tribes before 1492, because they didn't know. They didn't know because there's no record of any wars in the Americas before the inception of the Europeans. None on record. I can't see it. Nobody have shown it to me. I've been searching, I'm looking, and I can't find it. So like I said, all right, we have to make a few assumptions. And one of the assumptions are they didn't know about us enough to the extent where they knew of our internal affairs so they could write about it. That's number one. The second one is that we just didn't war with each other for it to make world news. And again, I'm not negating the fact or opinion that we had our internal beefs. I'm not saying no. All right. So I just wanted to point that out. Here we go again. We're looking at timelines. It's important that we look at timelines because when you're putting all this together, you have to look at the timelines for it to make sense to you. Otherwise, people are just going to tell you things and you cannot find ways to debunk what they are saying. So I'm giving you the information so that you're able to debunk any type of foolery that people bring to you when they start saying, oh, well, this is who you are. I want you to know who you are and to be able to articulate a storyline, a timeline. Let them prove it to you. Okay, don't just take their word for it. All right. Now we have a list of wars involving the United Kingdom. We're going to read a little bit. This is a list of wars involving the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. As its predecessor states the Kingdom of Great Britain, Kingdom of England, Kingdom of Scotland, and generally the British Isles. All right. So before you had the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and its predecessor, the predecessor was the states. Kingdom of Great Britain, Kingdom of England, Kingdom of Scotland, and generally the British Isles. Notably, militarized interstate disputes are included. For a list of wars that have been fought on the United Kingdom mainland, see the list of wars in Great Britain. Okay? Historically, the United Kingdom relied most heavily on the Royal Navy and maintained relatively small land forces. Most of the episodes listed here deal with the insurgencies and revolts in the various colonies of the British Empire. During its history, the United Kingdom forces or forces with a Great Britain mandate have invaded, had some control over, or fought conflicts in 171 of the world's 193 countries that are currently UN member states, or 9 out of the 10 of all the countries. All right? This is very interesting stuff to me, man. That's why I said, studying is key. Now, check this out. Kingdom of Britain, and I'm talking about that's just the 1707 to 1801. All right. Now, you have all these wars. The British allied, British played a very minor role. Okay. You have Saddam of Russia establishes itself as a new power in Europe. Okay. We're talking about European countries. Decline of the Swedish Empire and the Polish Lithuanian Commonwealth. Look at the flags here now. Okay. You see these flags? Got the crescent, the Ottoman Empire right here. So they were involved in those wars. All right. Pay attention to that. Now let's go further down. All right. The War of the Spanish Succession, 1701 to 1714. You have the British Allied victory, Treaty of Utrecht. All right. Philip V recognized as King of Spain by the Grand Alliance, territory in Canada and West Indies ceded from France, territory in Europe ceded from Spain. Okay. Nowhere you see the United States flag yet. Okay. Because the United States wasn't formed yet. But once again, pay attention to what I'm showing you. There's always a madness to what I'm showing. Okay. Pay attention. All right. Let's go further down. 1715 to 1726, we have the Spanish Succession, Caribbean piracy. Okay, Caribbean piracy. So let us see exactly what that is. Okay, that's the golden age of piracy is a common designation for the period between 1650s and 1730s when maritime piracy was a significant factor in the histories of the Caribbean, the United Kingdom, Indian Ocean states, North America, etc., and West Africa. So when we're dealing with pirates, you know what we are talking about, right? Okay. All right. So all these wars right here, piracy outlawed by Treaty of Utrecht, anti-Caribbean piracy campaign, Royal Navy, defeat of Edward Teach in 1718, defeat of Calico Jack in 1720, defeat of Black Bart in 1722, defeat of Edward Lowe in 1724. Most outlawed Caribbean pirateers captured or killed by 1726, marking the end of the golden age piracy. Okay. Then you have the Jacobite Rising, 1715, including the Jacobite Uprising, Cornwall. Let us see what that is. The attempt by James Francis Edward Stuart to regain the throne of England, Ireland, and Scotland for the exiled House of Stuart. Now, this is what you have to realize here. Now we're putting this into perspective. Like I said, there's always a madness to what I talk about. All right. The Jacobites are the Israelites. Okay. The Jacobites are the Israelites, where it is told that God came down and changed Jacob's name to Israel. Those are actually, all right, they are the descendants or people from Scotland, Ireland, and England. Those are the Israelites. All right. They are the Israelites. For those of you who don't know, British victory, Jacobite restoration, attempted defeat. All right. Up to now, we haven't seen anything with the United States flag. Okay. So we are not talking about American wars here. I'm going somewhere with this. All right. Now we have the War of Quadruple Alliance, including the 19th Uprising in Great Britain, the Holy Roman Empire, France, Dutch Republic, Savoy, Spain, Jacobite against the British Crown and the government only. British Allied Royal Navy won a battle. A small-scale Jacobite invasion was defeated. Treaty of The Hague. Spanish attempt at expansion fails. Then we come down some more. Still no mention of you're not seeing the United States flag. Okay. You have the War of Jenkins here. Then you have New Grenada, the Caribbean. Then you have Florida, North Carolina, Pacific. Now you're dealing with the Spanish Empire here. All right. The Spanish Empire. Okay. The Spanish Empire. Now we are talking about Muslims. We are talking about Muslims here. We are not talking about Christians. All right. In conclusive, other outcome, status quo, antebellum, British offensive in the Caribbean, theater defeated, British invasion of Florida, repulse, Spanish invasion of Georgia, repulse, Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle, leading to Treaty of Madrid. All right. Then we have the War of Australian Succession, King George's War, that's 1740, 1748. The War of Jenkins Ear, the first Continentalic War, Australia, Hanover, Dutch Republic. You have Saxony, Sardinia, Russia, East India Company, etc. Now, a lot of these wars, again, were also being fought on what's called some of the American continent. But at that time, it wasn't called the United States. All right, the United States wasn't in play at that time. I'm going somewhere with this. All right. Then you coming down again, the Jacobite uprising. You have the Second Germanic War. All those wars, Mohammed, etc., etc., etc. Let's come down some more. Boom, here we go. Great Britain, Persia, the Iroquois Confederacy. All right. Now we coming into the United States now, where again, it's a succession. All right. When the war started in certain parts of the Americas, a lot of it hadn't come into the mainland just yet. That's why I'm showing you a timeline. Okay, you had our ancestors in the Caribbean, certain parts of North America, certain parts in South America were fighting. So the Iroquois Confederacy couldn't have been mentioned because they were not involved. Now, it doesn't mean that the Iroquois Confederacy didn't exist. It didn't mean that. It existed. And as you can see, the flag right here, it's a purple flag with a little line running across. That is the original flag of the Iroquois Confederacy. All right. You have the British Allied victory, Treaty of Paris. Extensive North American lands, including all of Canada, ceded from France. The Caribbean colonies ceded from France. Senegal River colony excluded. Guri ceded from France. Florida and Spain. So I have that timeline here. Okay, you have the wars, Great Britain, Jamaican government, Jamaica Marines, etc., 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 etc. Let us go again. We're looking at some more timeline. The French and the Indian War between France and England begins in America. All right. The Treaty of Paris. Here we go. The Treaty of Paris, right here. That's why I wanted to show the timeline. The Treaty of Paris, let's read. The Treaty of Paris ends the French and Indian War. The French leave, the British take over. British troops fire on the crowd, killing 5 people in the so-called Boston Massacre. All right. I'm just talking about that. Now let us go to Muslims in early America. I just want to show you again a timeline of how all this happened, because a lot of people don't realize that Muslims were in America long before 1492. Long before 1492. All right. If it's true, which we know it's true, that the Moors ruled Spain for 711 years, and they called themselves there was this the War of the 7 Seas. So apparently the Moors had to have known about the Americas. So let's read a little bit. I know I may seem like I'm all over the place, but I'm going somewhere with it. All right. I'll bring it all back home. All right. The first words of the first words to pass between Europeans and Americans, one-sided and confusing as the most have been, were in sacred languages of Islam, the sacred language of Islam. Christopher Columbus had hoped to sail to Asia and had prepared to communicate as its great courts in one of the major languages of Eurasian commerce. So when Columbus interpreter, Spanish Jew, spoke to the Taino of Hispaniola, he did so in Arabic. Okay? He did so in Arabic, not just the language of Islam, but the religion itself likely arrived in the Americas in 1492. That's what they're saying. More than 20 years before Martin Luther nailed his thesis to the door, igniting the Protestant Reformation. And they're not talking about Martin Luther King Jr., okay? That Martin Luther, okay, the Martin Luther King Jr. actually was a student or an admirer of this Martin Luther. So here they're saying that the Taino, they spoke Arabic. True, because that was a universal language of commerce. Once again, I am going to bring it home into a 360. It wasn't just Arabic that was a universal language of commerce. It was also Latin. So all that stuff was speaking all over the Americas. It doesn't mean that was the only language or dialect that was spoken in the Americas. I'm going to give you an example. We had many different clans and tribes. They all spoke different dialects, but because they all spoke different dialects and commerce had to be made, they created languages to make it universal, like how we are speaking English today. All right. So English would be a form of Latin, or English would be another version of Arabic. I'm not saying it is. I'm just talking about in terms of commerce. It just happens so that in today's day and age, English is being used for commerce. But back then it was Arabic, and then it was Latin, or it was Latin, then Arabic, then English. Universal language for commerce. I just want to make that clear. All right. So once again, I'm showing you that the Muslims were here, and they just didn't come in 1492. No, they came before 1492 because we were already doing commerce with them. Now, if we go here, again, look at the timeline, you would see that the Iroquois Confederacy was already formed. Let me put my my cursor over that so you could see what I'm talking about. All right. And look at the official flag of the Iroquois Confederacy. Oh, come on, man. Give me a second. Okay, here we go. The Iroquois order Haudenosaunee are a historical, powerful Northeast Native American Confederacy in North America. They were known during the colonial years to the French as the Iroquois League, and later as the Iroquois Confederacy, and to the English as the Five Nations. All right. So we already had a structure set up. Okay, with that was our form of our collective government, so to speak. And that flag right here is the original flag of the Iroquois Confederacy. Okay, so let me continue reading here again. 1492. Moors / African and Arab Muslims had conquered much of the Iberian Peninsula in 711, establishing a Muslim culture that lasted nearly 8 centuries. All right, so now we are solidifying a fact that the Moors from 711, they ruled for 8 centuries. All right, we have to put the timeline, family. I'm showing you the timeline. Okay, by early 1492, the Spanish monarchs, Ferdinand and Isabella, completed the Reconquista, defeating the last of the Muslim kingdoms, Grenada. All right, so we're talking about here, and you see, again, we have to try to put this in perspective, because now we have to question, who is Ferdinand and Isabella? Were they pale people? Or were they heavy melanated people? Again, I'm just going to give you my opinion, all right? Based on my research, they are actually children, all right? You see, they're missing a big part in this history. Where was the pale man in all of this? Based on what we were taught, the pale men were in caves, right? Now, if that's a fact, and then the Moors speak of, well, we went and we took them out of the caves and we taught them. No, you didn't take them out of caves and teach them anything. All right. The truth of the matter is, you went and took their women and you led with their women during that 8th century run that you had from 711 to 1492. That's what you did. You went and you took their women, left the men in caves, and had children with those women. And hence, Ferdinand and Isabella were products of the Moors and these Caucasian women. And these so-called mulatto children, they're like, hold up, our father is black. I could see the whole side of that family. Where's my mother family? Then they told them the truth. Well, your father's there in the caves. So seeing that these mulatto children, I'm talking about way before Ferdinand, all right, and Isabella, way before that, because they had to rise to that power. So I don't want to move too fast. They had to rise to that power. So even before that, they had to go get the mulatto children, say, nah, you know what, we want to go get our fathers. And they brought their fathers into what's called civilization. And they taught them, architecture, how to fight. I mean, literally, they civilized them, all right? So it wasn't the Moors per se who did that. It was the mulatto children, because once you consider yourself a noble, all right, and your children are also an heir of the heir. So if you're a noble, then your children are nobility. So the mulatto children use their powers to get their fathers, okay, from their mother's side out of these caves. If that story is true, that they were in caves, all right, then they brought them into civilization, and they rose until, again, they created their own, and hence took us to a point where Ferdinand and Isabella got married, came together, and in the Reconquista, they fought their fathers, which is the Moors, all right, and they got defeated in 1492. Now, I hope that makes sense. Until that time, we didn't have no wars up here in the Americas. I just showed you a whole timeline. There was no mention of wars in the Americas. No mention of wars dealing with the outside world, at least. Okay, let's read some more. By early 1492, the Spanish monarchs, Ferdinand and Isabella, completed the Reconquista, defeating the last of the Muslim kingdoms, Granada. By the end of the century, the Inquisition, which had begun a century earlier, had coerced between 300,000 and 800,000 Muslims, and probably at least 70,000 Jews to convert to Christianity. Again, I'm showing you it was armies. Christianity was an army, and Muslim or Islam was an army. Well, Islam was an army. Spanish Catholics often subjected these Moriscos or conversos, all right? A Morisco is a converso, meaning that a Muslim, okay, that converted to Christianity, all right? That is called a Morisco, all right, a converso, all right? So the Moriscos or conversos of practicing Islam or Judaism, okay, Islam or Judaism in secret, and the Inquisitions pursued and prosecuted them. Some almost certainly sailed in Columbus's crew, carrying Islam in their minds. Okay? Now they say some certainly, almost certainly, sailed in Columbus's crew, carrying Islam in their hearts and minds. 8 centuries of Muslim rule left a deep cultural legacy on Spain, one evident in clear and sometimes surprising ways during the Spanish conquest of the Americas. Okay, Bernal Diaz del Castillo, the chronicler of Hernan Cortes' conquest of Mesoamerica, admired the customs of native women dancers by writing muy bien vestidas a su manera y que parecían moriscas, or very well dressed in their own way, and seemed like Moorish women. In other words, because of the culture, all right, they dressed like Moorish women. Because once again, we talking about the conquests of the Americas, and talking about of Spanish America, were done by who? the Spanish Moors. So you see, nobody's talking about that. Nobody's talking about it. Everybody keep talking about the pale man. So once again, let's put this in perspective. The Spanish routinely used mezquita, Spanish for mosque, to refer to Native American religious sites. Traveling through Anahuac, today, which is known as Texas and Mexico. All right, so it says traveling through Anahuac. Anahuac is today's Texas and Mexico. So Texas and Mexico was one landmass called Anahuac. Cortes reported that he saw more than 400 mosques. Islam served as a kind of blueprint or algorithm for the Spanish in the New World. As they encountered people and things new to them, they turned to Islam to try to understand what they were seeing, what was happening. Even in the name California might have some Arabic lineage. The Spanish gave the name in 1535, taken from the deeds of Esplandian, 1510, a romance novel popular with conquistadors. The novel features in rich island California, ruled by black Amazonians and their queen Califia. The deeds of Esplandian had been published in Seville, a city that had for centuries been part of the Umayyad or Umayyad Caliphate, Califia, California. So for those of you who wanted to know, a few of the original names of California, all right? Califia, and then California. Across the Western Hemisphere, whenever they arrived at the new lands or encountered native people, Spanish conquistadors read the Requerimiento, a stylized legal pronouncement. In the essence, it announced a new state of society, offering Native Americans the chance to convert to Christianity and submit to Spanish rule, or else bear responsibility for all the deaths and losses that would follow. So when you're asking yourself, well, how did we happen to fall? Okay, well, how did we end up here today? That were the choices we had. Okay, these were the choices we had right here. Okay, convert or submit to Spanish rule, or else bear the responsibility for all deaths, losses that would follow. So we have to make a choice. You know what I'm saying? We have to make a choice. A formal and public announcement of the intent to conquer, including an offer to the faithless of a chance to submit and become believers, is the first formal requirement of jihad. Following centuries of war with Muslims, the Spanish had adopted this practice, Christianized it, called it Requerimiento, and took it to America. Iberian Christians might have thought Islam wrong or even diabolical, but they also knew it well. If they thought it strange, it must be counted a very familiar strange. All right? By 1503, we know that Muslims themselves from West Africa were in the New World. All right? So once again, all that stuff, every document that you read, every research that you read, it's always coming from across the seas. It didn't originate here. All right? In that year, Hispaniola's royal governor wrote, and Hispaniola is Haiti and Dominican Republic put together, wrote to Isabella requesting she curtail the importation. They were, he wrote, a source of scandal to the Indians. They had, he wrote, repeatedly fled their owners. On Christmas morning, 1522, in the New World's first slave rebellion, 20 Hispaniola sugar mill slaves rose and began slaughtering Spaniards. The rebels, the governor noted, were mostly Wolof of Senegambian people, many of whom had been Muslims since the 11th century. Muslims were more likely than other enslaved Africans to be literate. I'm going to read that again. Muslims were more likely than other enslaved Africans to be literate, because those Muslims, the Moors, they were literate. All right? very intelligent men. All right, and and ability rarely looked upon with favor by plantation owners. In the 5 decades following the 1522 slave rebellion on Hispaniola, Spain issued 5 decrees prohibiting the importation of Muslim slaves because they were just too literate. They wanted dumb Africans, all right? They didn't want the Moors, or those Moors rather. Okay, they didn't want them. Muslims thus arrived in America more than a century before the Virginia Company founded the Jamestown colony in 1607. Muslims came to America more than a century before the Puritans founded the Massachusetts Bay Colony in 1630. Muslims were living in America not only before Protestants, but before Protestantism existed. After Catholicism, Islam was the second monotheistic religion in the Americas. But they all came from the same foundation. Once again, they are just different legions, different armies forcing, all right, and implementing their culture and their religion. The popular misunderstanding, even among educated people, that Islam and Muslim are recent additions to America, tells us important things about how American history has been written. In particular, it reveals how history have justified and celebrated the emergence of the modern nation state. One way to valorize the United States of America has been to minimize the heterogeneity and scale, the cosmopolitanism, diversity, and the mutual coexistence of peoples in America during the first 300 years of European presence. The past is those bits and pieces of history that a society selects in order to sanction itself. The writing of American history has also been dominated by Puritan institutions. It might have no longer been quite true, as the historians and Southerner U.B. Phillips complained more than 100 years ago that Boston had written the history of the U.S. and largely written it wrong. But when it comes to the history of religion in America, the consequences of the domination of the leading Puritan institution in Boston, Harvard University, and New York Haven, and New Haven, Yale University, remains formidable. This Puritan effect on seeing and understanding religion in early America and the origins of the U.S. brings real distortion, as though we were to turn the political history of 20th century Europe over to the Trotskyites. Think of history as the depth and the breadth of human experience, as what actually happened. History makes the world, or a place and people, what it is or what they are. In contrast, think of the past as those bits and pieces of history that a society selects in order to sanction itself, to affirm its form of government, its institutions, and dominant morals. Now remember, the man who writes history, the man who wrote history, is controlling the world today. All right? Always think about that. The forgetting of early America's Muslims is then more than an acrid concern. The consequences bear directly on the matter of political belonging today. Nations are not mausoleums or reliquaries to conserve the deed of inanimate. They are organic in that, just as they are made, they must be consistently remade, or they atrophy and die. The virtual Anglo-Protestant monopoly over the history of religion in America has obscured the 500,000 presence of Muslims in America and has made it harder to see clear answers, important questions about who belong, who is American, and what criteria, and who gets to decide. What then should America or American mean with its vast early America program? The Amuhundro Institute, the leading scholarly organization of early American history, points to one possible answer. Early America and American are big and general terms, but not so much as to be nearly meaningless. Historically, they are best understood as the great collision, mixing and conquest of peoples and civilizations and animals and microbes of Europe and Africa with the people and societies of the Western Hemisphere. from the Greater Caribbean to Canada. That began in 1492. From 1492 to at least about 1800, America simply is a Greater America or vast early America. Muslims were part of the Greater America from the start, including those parts of it that would become the United States. In 1527, Mustafa Zemmouri, an Arab Muslim from the Moroccan coast, arrived in Florida as a slave on a disastrous Spanish expedition led by Panfilo de Narvaez. Against all odds, Zemmouri survived and made a life for himself, traveling from coast of the Gulf of Mexico through what is now the southwestern U.S. as well as Mesoamerica. He struggled through the servitude to native peoples before fashioning himself into a well-known and respected medicine man. Now I'm just going to skip a couple of things here and read here. Zemmouri saw for more of the present-day U.S. its lands and peoples than any of the country's founding fathers, even several of them combined. Lelia Lalami captures all of this and more in her excellent novel, The Moor's Account, 2014, which follows Zemmouri through his childhood in Morocco, slavery in Spain, and ultimately to a mysterious end in the American Southwest. If there is such thing as the best version of the American pioneer or frontier spirit, some resonating experience of adaptation and reinvention that can stamp itself on a nation and peoples, it is difficult to find one represents better than Zemmouri. And they show a map here. But what I'm going to do is I'm not going to read all of this, all right? You kind of get the picture where I'm going. I'm trying to show you the connection of the Moors to this land. So let's talk about the American Empire now. We're going to talk about the American Empire. The American Empire is nothing but what is today called the United States. I'm going to repeat myself, all right? Don't forget, America is a continent. America is a continent. The American Empire wasn't the American Empire wasn't the American continent. Okay, I'm going to repeat myself. The American Empire wasn't the American continent. So when the Moors speak about, well, the American Empire or the Moroccan Empire, they are talking about their armies that came from there when they lost their reign in 1492. They teamed up with Isabella and Ferdinand and warred on the original people of this land. Hence, they formed what was called the Moroccan Empire or the American Empire, Northwestern Maxim, all that BS. That's not us. Okay, so that is the American Empire. So they ruled that empire until they brought slaves here. Remember, talk about the 13 colonies and all that, right? Let me see if I could pull a little something up again. Give me a second here. All right. That is England. I'm talking about, let me see, the war, timeline of war. Where's the list here? Give me a second. Let me just pull this up for y'all. Let me see if I could find that. America, the United States colonies. Okay, here we go. All right. So now we are talking about how all this came into play. The American Revolution, 1775. Now you're looking at the Treaty of Paris, the 13 North American colonies recognized as the independent United States of America. All right. Now that is not the United States. Keep that in mind. The 13 North American colonies recognized as the United States of America is not the United States. That is the American Empire. Okay. That is the American Empire. I hope you get what I'm saying now. That is the American Empire. That is what the Moors are talking about. But who set up the 13 colonies? The 13 colonies were set up by British nobles. Some may call them blackamoors. Then you have the Irish nobles. Then you have the Scottish nobles. And you have some Portuguese or Portugal nobles. They came here. King George, King James, all of them came and set up the 13 colonies, which was called what? The empire until the revolution that was formed, that formed the United States. And then the empire ceded to the United States. So literally, all the United States did is just took over the empire, all right, and extended their territory. Now, let me just stop sharing that for a second because I want to make sure you guys get this and whatever I'm saying makes sense. I had to go through the timeline, all right, to get you to understand all what I'm talking about. All that was necessary. All this little reading was necessary. So let me break this down again. All right, let me put this down. The American Empire, all right, what the Moors talking about? Well, the flag of Morocco was flying here and all that. Yes, it was. Not because this is Morocco, all right? Not because Moors are the original people. No, that's not what it is. It is because of the conquest of the Moors of certain territories on the American continent that later became the 13 colonies. All right? Once again, let me look at it here again. Wait, let me see where it's at. Where did I have that? The United States of that became the United States of America. So hence you would hear people say, well, the United States of America is not the United States because they're talking about what you call the Republic. So the Republic is the empire. All right. That was what, when they conquered, that was what they created. And I'm talking, when I say they, I'm talking about the Moors. All right. They conquered and they formed and created. That was the deal. The deal was this, okay? The deal was we're going to work something out because war, it was now we're talking about wars on the American continent, particularly in what's called the United States. All right. So deal was, okay, you know what, man, listen, we have our government, the Iroquois Confederacy, the 500 nations coming together. All right. We're going to work it out where you could set up the 13 colonies. That's the deal. Set up the 13 colonies. You have the empire. So now we're going to share this space because now we are doing commerce together. But there was another party which was literally building, which was called the United States. The United States was more so now of the pale man. That's where the pale man started to get power because their children, the mulatto children, was like, nah, we're going to make sure our fathers get some of this. So wars started to break out and the wars became so ferocious. And we are talking about, once again, let us not forget the wars that was going on in England at that time, in Britain. You see, nobody's talking about that. People only think there was stuff happening here in the Americas. No. At the same time, all this was happening, we already had wars in the kingdom of, I showed you the timeline, all right, where the so-called black nobles were losing their power to the pale man. So that was happening. Okay, that was already happening in Britain. So now, when you come into the what's called the United States, why do you think they were able to send to England to get help? Because at that time, the pale man had already taken over the so-called blackamoors in Britain, in England. Okay? And England also is part of Scotland. All that's connected. Let me prove my point to you again. Let me show it to you. All right? Let me share my screen real quick. Because we have to let this make sense. I know it seems a little all over the place, but it's going to all make sense. All right? Pay attention. Let me show you this real quick. England. Okay, we're going to look at... All right, so let's look at Albion. Let us look at the etymology of Albion, because a lot of times people think Albion is the Caucasian man, right? Well, let's see. The ancient name of England. Albion is the ancient name of England. That's what Albion is. People think Albion is a Caucasian man or a pale man. Okay? Albion is the ancient name of England, attested in Old English, sometimes said to be from non-Indo-European based mountain, which also is suggested as the source of Latin, Irish name for what? Scotland. But more likely from Latin albus, which what means white. Now, brothers and sisters, pay attention to that word white, okay? Because I'm going to bring all this into circle to prove exactly what I'm talking about, all right? But most likely from Aldos, what? White. But you may think that white means Caucasian. Ancient name for England, all right? Also an Irish name for Scotland. So they were all part of the same landmass. But let us not forget that in Britain, you also had wars going on where the so-called black nobles had to succeed. They had to give up. They lost the wars, and then that's why you have this pale queen and her children and their people in charge right now. But they're not the original nobles. She's not the original queen, and they're not the original kings. They defeated them. Nobody's talking about those wars. Nobody's talking about them wars, man. You see what I'm saying? Nobody's talking about them wars. So let me ask you, let me just validate what I'm talking about again. When that big revolution happened right here in the United States, when that big American revolution, where did they go get help from? I want anybody to answer that question. Answer that question for me. Please. Where did they go get help from? Where did the Americans go get help from in the American Revolution War right here? They went and got help from England. From England. Now, let me ask you a question. If England, okay, if England is the one that colonized you, how is that you going to get help from your colonizer? I'm going to ask you a question again. If England colonized the Americas, why during the war would the Americans go get help from the England? Why would you go get help from your colonizer? You see, it was the empire. Okay, it was the empire they were fighting against. They were fighting against the Moors. They were fighting against the American Empire, the 13 colonies. So now the pale man and their mulatto children, they went and got help from their brothers and sisters in England. And they brought help and defeated the 13 colonies, hence creating the United States. There you go. There you go. You see what I'm saying? So like I said, I know I was all over the place with it, but I had to go and show you timelines. Just to recap, when you look at all the timelines, there is no wars in the Americas, no wars whatsoever. I'm not saying we didn't have our internal beef, but the outside world didn't know about that. Okay? But it doesn't mean stuff wasn't going on in the outside world. They were fighting each other. I'm talking about bloodshed, brothers against brother. I'm talking about heavy melanated men fighting against heavy melanated men, all in Africa, Europe, and Asia, fighting each other. You feel me? So whenever the inception of the pale man came, they say, well, okay, they was in caves and they taught them. Hey, I don't know. I wasn't there, right? But what I do know is they came to power from fighting the blackamoors in Britain. They came to power fighting the Moors in Spain. All that stuff was going on simultaneously. Okay? It was going on simultaneously. But when the Moors finally lost their reign, they came full-fledged into the Americas to take over. And they created the American Empire, which is not the American continent. The American Empire was the 13 colonies and its territories. Okay? That's it. It wasn't the entire continent. However, they were still enslaving people. So now you have the Caucasian man, you have American Aboriginals, and you have some Africans coming together fighting against these people. Now this great revolution is coming in. And now everybody's trying to figure what side to pick. All right? We had our own, remember, the Iroquois, we had our own governments. And we were instructed to just either pick a side or be neutral. Some of our people broke out and picked a side, and a lot of us remained neutral. But because the war was so ferocious, all right, they went and got help. They went and summoned their Caucasian people in Britain to send help. And they sent help into the Americas, and that's how they were able to defeat, all right, the 13 colonies. And then from the 13 colonies, they say, okay, you know what, man? Y'all lost. Y'all lost. All is fair in one game. Y'all lost. Let's put the republic to the side. Let's put that, you know, let's put we're gonna cut the cherry tree. Basically, the cherry tree is the Moroccan flag. The Moroccan flag is not our flag. Okay? That is not our flag. That was their flag flying on our land because they conquered our people. You dig? But Benjamin Franklin said, nah, man, it's time to cut down that cherry tree, man. Time to cut down that Moroccan flag. So now what we're going to do is it's time for the United States to step up. But because still heavy conflict, then Morocco said, what, you know what? All right. You know, you got it. You won. All right. You have the army. You got the strength. So this is what we're going to do. We are going to acknowledge you as a nation. Hence, Morocco acknowledged the United States as a nation for the very first time. And then they say, okay, you know what? Let us do a treaty, which is called the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, to show now you could come and bring your slaves, you know what I'm saying? And we're not going to bother your cargo. As a matter of fact, we want to be in partnership with you. So now you have the republic, okay, still active, but inactive in a sense. But the United States is literally saying, okay, you know what? I'm the boss now. We got a president now. You feel me? I hope that makes sense. Okay? I hope that makes sense. So the United States now, here comes the United States. The United States have 3 different categories in the IRS codes. Okay? You see, nobody, they don't want to tell the real story. They're giving you half a truth. Some truth and half a truth. Story like it is. Once you start looking at what was happening in the Americas, that's why I say look at the timelines. I have to take you all through this tedious, boring parts of the, well, I hope you didn't find it boring, okay? But I have to take you through all the timeline of wars and show you what was happening here, show you what was happening across, to let you know how all this came into play. All the wars and turmoil was happening across the seas. It wasn't happening here. So once the United States, the pale man, Christian, okay, so let's put it this way. The Republic was Islam. The Moroccan Empire, the 13 colonies was Islam. Okay, Islam. Christian was the United States. So once the Christians took over, we are talking about legions. Once the Christian army took over the Islam army, they say, okay, you know what, man? The Republic got to go to the side. We got to chill with that. Now, let the Christians take over. And the pale man represents the face of Christianity. You feel me? So that is exactly what happened. So the United States is broken up into 3 different categories within the IRS codes. We're not going to get into that. I'll do that in another video. But just so you know, the United States is literally the federal zones, the territories, and its enclaves. The enclaves may be an example of an enclave would be a military base. All right. So that is what the United States is. The United States federal zones, including the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, Guam, the Virgin Islands. That's what the United States is legally on paper. All right. But then you still have which is dormant, is the Republic is still dormant. In other words, what the empire that was created by the Moors, it is still dormant. It's there. It is just dormant. It's sleep. All right. So now a resurgence of that empire is trying to make its way by telling all of us, oh, well, you know what? Hey, we are Moors. Let's all come together. So now Islam could fight Christianity, 2 armies. But what you have to realize is the original American has always stood on neutral. Yes, some of our ancestors pick sides, but for the majority of us, we stayed neutral. You feel me? So they both have a big stake in our land. All right? Islam and Muslims, whether you say Muslim or Muslim, however they want to break up the word, MOS or MUS, it doesn't matter. It doesn't make a difference. All right? The Moors had a stake here first. Islam had a stake here first. And then the Christians came and said, nah, we want a piece of the pie. Our army is bigger. Our God is bigger. So that's what it was. So here we are. History is about to repeat itself. Okay? The two biggest armies in the world on our mainland, all right? And they all recruiting us. Oh, you feel me? Now you got to fight with us. Oh, now you got to fight with us. Well, now we were our own people. We have always been our own people. You see what I'm saying? We have always been our own people. So my goal, once again, is to show you the truth, not what people are telling you and making it sound good. When they talk about the cutting of the cherry tree, it wasn't an actual tree. It was the Moorish flag, okay? The Moorish flag, that red with the green, that was what Benjamin Franklin said, now we cutting that down, son. So all this Northwestern Maxim and all that, man, listen, that stuff is not us. We are not from North Maxim and all that stuff, man. Nah, we ain't got nothing to do with that. And this was never Morocco. However, it was, and part of it, okay, part of it was part of the Moroccan Empire. And that's facts. I'm not going to tell you no lie, all right? I'm not going to tell you no BS. I'm going to just keep it 100. So yes, the Moors have been an integral part of our lives. And not every Moor that came here, okay, came as a conqueror. A lot of them came before. You see what I'm saying? Just came before. So we have been dealing with the other side for a very long time. You feel me? But the conquering armies were the ones who set up, all right, the 13 colonies. That is just a fact. All right. Even before, in fact, even before setting up the 13 colonies, they were here. All right. Fighting. They were fighting. Those were called the American Indian Wars, because the American Indian Wars were not with the pale man. I'm talking about the early American wars, Indian Wars. It wasn't with the pale man. It was with Moors and mulattoes. We had a lot of treaties. Okay. We had a lot of treaties with Moors. We had a lot of treaties with Moors. Even before we had treaties with the United States, nobody's talking about that. You see, nobody's talking about that. Because if they show you the timelines, you will start putting two and two together. You will start asking questions. You will start asking questions. You feel me? So at the end of the day, I'm going to let fear be fear. The Moors are an extension of our relatives. They are our relatives because they have mixed in with our society so much. You see what I'm saying? They have become part of us. I just got to keep it 100. You know what I mean? Whether it was by force, whether it was by war, or whether it was by treaty, okay? They became a part of our existence. Okay? And that's just facts. So when Moors say, you know what, man, I'm an American Aborigine, or I could consider myself an American Indian, you know, I cannot dispute that. You see what I'm saying? Because if I look at it this way, if a Native American, okay, could come and say, I'm an American Indian because my grandparents mixed with an original woman and they get to claim to be American Indian, then I don't see why a Moor cannot claim to be an American Indian, because their forefathers came and mixed in with our women. You see what I'm saying? So I just want people to see the truth for what it is, accept it for what it is, and let everybody know their place. You feel me? It doesn't mean that you are an original American. It doesn't mean that. But you came and mixed in with the original Americans. So does that mean you have our blood in you? Yes. And that's what it is. Okay, that's what it is. So I just showed you Albion, what Albion really means. Okay. Now what I'm gonna do is we're gonna get into even before I move on, let me just ask real quick. I mean, I know, like I said, I went through a few places, all right? Um, is all this making sense to y'all, or is there anything you think I should, expound on in regards to what I just spoke of? Because now I want to move to the SF 181 form. I want to move to that, all right? But I have to give you a history of how the Moors happen to be here and why they are saying that they have, this is the Moroccan Empire, why they're saying their flag is here and all this. I have to show you the timeline to literally show you all that and where it came from, because everybody is missing a big chunk of the American history. They're missing a big chunk and they're not showing it because there is no records of any war. Family, I have done extensive research of any war that was going on in the Americas while all this bloodshed was happening across the seas. We didn't have this kind of wars. And once again, I'm not saying we didn't have a little internal tribal thing. I'm not saying that. Okay? I would be a hypocrite to say that. But it wasn't something that was global. Okay? It wasn't something that was global. Or they just didn't know about us. They just didn't know about us. All right? So want to put that in perspective again. Good. So I'm glad it all makes sense. Now we're going to move on to we definitely America is a Royal Rumble area. That's why they call it the melting pot, because everybody wanted a piece of this. Okay. Now let us go and we're going to talk about the SF 181 form. All right. We're going to talk about that because a lot of people are confused about that and a lot of people are asking about that. All right. So I'm going to talk about that and exactly what the SF 81 form is. Let me share my screen. I have the form right here. Okay. Give me a second. Share my screen. All right. And once again, for those of you who feel the need to support and if you appreciate the lecture, show your appreciation. That would be appreciated. All right. Let me share my screen. Share the screen. Here we go. Share. We're going to go to the SF 181 form because there are a lot of people pushing that on our people, talking about, oh, well, fill it out, fill it out, fill it out, fill it out. Shout out to, Diva Laree, what I'm saying, for definitely putting some perspective on that as well. All right. So here we are. We have the SF 81 form. Now, if you look at the form and you read it carefully, it says US on the left top, on the left corner, top left, it says United States Office of Personnel Management Guide to Personal Data in standards. It says what? Ethnicity and race identification. So that form is only for ethnicity and race identification purposes. It says, please read the Privacy Act and instructions before completing the form. You have to put your name. As you can see this, they put what? Your last name first, your first name, and your middle initial. That's the proper way of writing your name. You see on the form they have it correctly? Because you don't have last names. There's a saying, what? Family comes first. So if your family name is first, how do you have a last name? You don't have a last name, you have a surname. And sir means to be above all. That's what sir means. Okay? That's what sir means. We already looked at Albion. Let me see if we could go look at the etymology of sir. All right. Okay, I'm trying to see if I could see sir. Word beginning element meaning over and above. Okay. That's what I don't want to translate the page. All right, so that's what sir means. Over and above, beyond. Over and above. So therefore, you, we do not have last names. You have a surname, means to be above because family comes first. So why do they always tell you, well, what's your last name? You don't have a last name. So on that form, it's correct. The surname, the given name, and the middle initial. Then they ask for your social security number, your birth date, etc., etc. It says privacy Act statement. Ethnicity and race information is requested under the authority of 42 USC section 2000 lowercase e-16 and is in compliance with the Office of Management and Budget's 1997 revision to the standard for the classification of the federal data on race and ethnicity. Providing this information is voluntary. Okay, it's voluntary. Don't let anybody think you have to do it. Everything is voluntary and has no impact on your employment status. But in the instance of missing information, your employing agency will attempt to identify your race and ethnicity by visual observation. In other words, they will assume. Okay, this information is used as necessary to plan for equal employment opportunity throughout the federal government. It is also used by the U.S. Office of Personnel Management or employing agency, maintaining the records to locate individuals for personal research or survey response, and in the production of summary, descriptive statistics, and analytical studies in support of function for which the records are collected and maintained, or for related workforce studies. Social Security numbers is required under the authority of Executive Order 9397, which requires Social Security to be used for purpose of uniform, orderly administration of personal records. Now, they're talking about if you're filling out that form, right? But a Social Security number is voluntary, which I showed you in the Social Security Act. I've already done videos showing you that, so we don't have to get into that, okay? Provision is providing this information is voluntary, and failure to do so will have no effect on employment status. Again, if Social Security number is provided, however, other agency sources may be used to obtain it, okay? Specific instructions. The two questions below are designed to identify your ethnicity and race regardless of your answer to section 1. Go to question 2. Question 1, are you Hispanic or Latino? A person of Cuban, Mexican, Puerto Rican, South or Central American, or of the Spanish culture or origin, regardless of race, could click yes or no. Would be considered Hispanic or Latino. So somebody who's literally darker than me, once you're from Central America, you could be considered Hispanic or Latino. Again, that is just a category. All right. Question 2. Please select the racial category or categories with which you most closely identify by placing an X in the appropriate box. Check as many as possible. American Indian or Alaskan Native. A person having origin. We are talking about origin now. Okay? In any of the original peoples of North America, South America, including Central America, who could also be considered Latino or Hispanic, and who maintains tribal affiliations or community attachment. That's an American Indian or Alaska Native. All right? Asian, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of Far East, Southeast Asia, or the Indian subcontinent, including, for example, Cambodia, China, India, Japan, Korea, Malaysia, Pakistan, the Philippine Islands, Thailand, and Vietnam. Black or African American, a person having origins in any of the Black racial groups of Africa. Right there alone in itself, it shows you that Black or African American, it doesn't matter where you put yourself, you have no standing because there's no such thing as Black racial groups of Africa. Okay? Because as you could see, they are given specifics here. Those are specific locations. All right? Talking about American Indians, they're not calling them a color. They're saying original people from any of the original peoples. Okay? Now, here, see the difference. I'm showing y'all the difference. Pay attention, brothers and sisters. American Indian, it says what? It deals with peoples. People. When you deal with Asian, it deals with people. When you deal with Native Hawaiian, it deals with what? Peoples. Right? When you deal with white, it deals with peoples. But when you deal with black, it deals only with a person origins of black racial groups of Africa. Now let me just stop sharing the screen here for you to really get what I'm talking about. I hope you see what I'm showing you right now. Okay? Each of those categories, they deal with people. Okay? People originating from South America, North America, Central America, people. Okay? What is the next one? Then the next one is Asian. You have original peoples. Far East, Southeast Asia, Indian subcontinent, still dealing with peoples. Examples: Cambodia, China, India, Japan, Korea, Malaysia, Pakistan, the Philippine Islands, Thailand, and Vietnam. Okay, when you deal with Native Hawaiians, it is dealing with peoples from Hawaii, Guam, Samoa, other places, Pacific Islands. When you deal with white, it deals with what? Origins of the people originally from what? Europe, Middle East, or North Africa. But when it comes to black and African Americans, it don't deal with people. It deal with persons. Persons, okay, having origins in any black racial groups of Africa. Man. You see, you got to pay attention to the details, family. When you read and you don't read within a standing. So now our people are here calling themselves black and African American. Right here in the Americas, you have no standing in law. You are dead. Even if you were to consider yourself African, you are still dead because they're not talking about people. They're talking about persons, things. So you literally have no legal standing when it comes to black or African American, family. All right. So we know. So let us assume I'm going to share my screen again. I just wanted to come back here for a second. Share my screen. Share the screen. Okay. Let's go back here for a second. So we spoke about the Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, and we speak of white. Now, let us focus on this white part here, because this is very significant. Okay? That's why you have a lot of Moors feeling this out and putting white, talking about white power. All right? I'm going to show you exactly what all this means. Let me break this down. Okay? White, a person having origins in any original peoples of Europe, Middle East, or North Africa. So when you put white on that form, you are an original person or people from Europe, Middle East, or North Africa. Who are those? They are Moors. Well, Chief, what are you talking about? How can you prove that? All right, let's go. Let's look at this. 4th edition by Henry Clark, Black, Free White Person. Let's read. And all that stuff is in the link below. Free white persons. Free white persons referred to in Naturalization Act as amended Act July 14th, 1870 as meaning naturally given to it when first used in the first stat 103 lowercase c period 3 comma, meaning all persons belonging to what? European races, then commonly counted as white, and the descendants, including such descendants in countries to which they have emigrated. Let us read. It includes all European Jews, more or less intermixed with peoples of Celtic, Scandinavian, Teutonic, Iberian, Latin, Greek, and Slavic descent. It includes what's that? Migayas, Lapps, and Fiends, and the Basque and Albanians. It includes the mixed Latin, Celtic, Iberian, and what? Moorish inhabitants of Spain and Portugal. The mix, it also includes the mix, you see they highlight the Moorish inhabitants? Because it includes them. Let us read this again, all right? Also, the mixed Greek, Latin, Phoenician, and what? North African inhabitants of Sicily, and the mixed Slav, and the Tatar inhabitants of South Russia. It does not, I repeat, it does not mean Caucasian race. Caucasians just call themselves white to get that status. Caucasians are not white in flesh or complexion, and they are not white in status. They took that status away from the people it was originally applied to. The Aryan race or Indo-European races, nor the mixed Indo-European, Derivian, Semitic, and Mongolian people who inhabited Persia. A Syrian of Asiatic birth and descent will not be entitled to become a naturalized citizen of the United States as being a free white person. That's why when you have these Mongolian Native Americans, they say, oh, well, you know, white people can take over land, white people this, that. Is because they know within status they are not white. Nobody's white in complexion. So you see who white people are. Let us go back to the SF-181 form. Original peoples of Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa. Now, let us go look at the etymology. Okay? Come on. Let's go look at the etymology of more. The noun. What? Okay? A North African Berber, one of the race dwelling, blah, 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 medieval Moros from Moros, inhabitant of Mauritania, Roman Northwest Africa, a region now corresponding to northern Algeria and Morocco, from Greek Moros, perhaps a native name, or else cognate with Moros, black. Okay? Same thing. But the adjective only appears in late Greek and may as well be from the people's name as the reverse. Also applied to the Arabic conquerors of Spain. So let me ask you a question. Who were the ones who took over Spain in 711? Here we go. The Moors. Okay, being a dark people in relation to Europeans. Their name in the Middle Ages was synonymous with what? Negro. Being the nearest Muslim, again, that's why I showed you the timeline. The Muslim, okay, to Western Europe, it was used indiscriminately of Muslim, Persians, Arabs, etc., but especially those of India. Cognate with Dutch Moor, German Moor, etc., 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 and we have Moro, all right? Muslim, Malay, or Philippines from Spanish Moro, literally Moor, and it says see more, so we have that already, all right? Let us go back to the SF-181 form. Here we go. Original European, Middle East, the Middle East, or a North African. All right. So let us break this down. So when we look at the SF-181 form, all right, when we look at the SF-181 form, it's literally, okay, it's kind of like when if you're black or African American, you get a little piece of respect. You have no rights. You get some privileges. All right. When you consider yourself American Indian, you get more privileges. All right. You get a bigger piece of the pie. And when you consider yourself white, which are the Moors, okay, and the other categories that I mentioned, you get a bigger piece of the pie. I hope that makes sense. All right. So once again, I just have to put all of this in perspective, bring it into full circle, a 360, so you could really see what's going on. Now, once again, I have to be very candid, okay, to let y'all know that yes, American Indian is a political term, okay, that have benefits for us as the original people. But American Indian is also, okay, it is also a misnomer. I have to keep it 100. It is also a misnomer. Like I've told people, yes, I'm proud to be an American Indian for political status reasons. All right? But if I were to take away the political aspect of things, I would not call myself an American Indian. Okay? Because American Indian was the name given to us by whom? It wasn't the pale man. Okay? It wasn't the pale man. Okay? The name American Indian was given to us by the Moors. By the Moors. Okay? The American Indian was given to us by the Moors and the mulatto children. That's what they called us, American Indians. That's why part of the deal was to put us in the Constitution, because we were the people, the original people they met when they came here. They had to put them in the Constitution, and they just generalized and called us American Indians when they came here. Okay? So I hope all this makes sense, because you know, we gotta put this in perspective, man. We gotta put this in perspective. This is it's a big mess. It's a big mess, and people are all over the place, and that's a fact. I mean, it just is what it is. It just is what it is. You feel me? So, as the original people of the land, right? We have to know the position that we have to play. Okay? Yes, the original people of the land were coined American Indians, all right, for commercial purposes. You feel me? So even that in itself depends on how you look at it. You could still fall underneath some kind of jurisdiction. All right, you could still fall under some federal jurisdiction. I'm just keeping it 100. Okay, I'm letting y'all know the truth. I ain't got. Man, listen. I don't have to play the games. Okay, so again, be mindful when you know when to use your whatever is in your toolbox. Know when to use it to your benefit. Okay, use it. Know when to use it to your benefit. All right, just that's what I'm gonna say. All right. So yes, we were the people that were called American Indians, but our ancestors didn't call themselves American Indians. It was accepted, all right, because that was when the treaties were signed as American Indians. But before 1492, 1491, the 1490, is I would say at least I would probably say this we were called American Indians around 1490, I would think. 1490. All right. But it wasn't made prevalent until 1492, because again, treaties were being written even before 1492. You feel me? So it was already deemed we were American Indians on I'm certainly showing record. All right. So I just have to let you know that again, yes, as a cultural identity, we are American Indians on paper, and it has a lot of weight. But we could still run into some situations, all right? It depends, when we are dealing with the federal level, okay? Or we are dealing with different situations. So all I'm just saying is to know when to play your cards. It's all about playing the game and know how to play your cards the right way, all right? But with that being said, we are what would people call the Aboriginal, all right? Or some people have problems with the word aboriginal, but in international law, it means original inhabitants, right? So if you just want to say original Americans, we are the original Americans. All right? Original Americans. That is our true standing. With that standing, no one has authority over us. Okay? No one has authority over us as the original Americans. Period, point blank. All right? Taking away all the semantics, taking away all the play on words. We are original Americans. All right? So I hope that makes sense. Okay? I hope it makes sense because, like I said, man, it's just too much of the confusion out there. And people don't know the true extent of how all this came to play. They don't. They're assuming, and then you're just going based on what people tell you. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I mean, indigenous, right? Like I tell folks like this, right? Indigenous, if we go look at the etymology of indigenous, let me show it to you, I'm Ryan. All right, let's go look at the etymology of indigenous. Yes, we are indigenous, but again, indigenous could be ambiguous. It depends on, it depends on who's saying they're indigenous. All right, let me show you. Indigenous. Here we go. Indigenous there's two categories of being indigenous. Indigenous, pretty much born or originated. That's it, period. Born or originated. So anybody who's born, synonymous with native, is indigenous and originated. The thing with us is we are indigenous because we are originating and born. But you have people such as natives, even Caucasians, or even Africans could say, hey, you know what? I'm indigenous. And they would be within their rights to say that they are indigenous. That's why the United Nations left it, in such an ambiguous way. All right. They say, well, you know what? Let the people determine what indigenous mean or who is indigenous. So with that being said, it still leaves room for people who are not originating to say that they are indigenous. Ryan, I hope that makes sense. Okay? I hope it makes sense. Now, some may say, well, you know what? What about, we already know Aboriginal. What about autochthon? Let's look at it. All right. It's not coming up here. Oh, here we go. I'm spelling it wrongly. CH. All right. Now, some people will say, well, what about autochthonous? Autochthonous to me is the same thing as indigenous. Why? Because all it does, autochthonous does is it put all three of them in one. All right. So you have native, aboriginal, and indigenous. Anybody who's a native could say they're autochthonous. Anybody who's indigenous could say that they're autochthonous. However, when you look at aboriginal, it only speaks of somebody who's originating. But some people say they have a problem with that, so you might as well just say, hey, you know what? If aboriginal means original in the first place, then why not just say original? Right? That from which anything is derived. All right. So again, that's why I said if we don't want to play the semantics with the words, all right, if you don't want to play the semantics with the words, okay, then you would see that just say original. All right. Look up Indian in Black's Law Dictionary. All right, let's look it up. Let's look up Indian in Black's Law Dictionary. Definition of Indian in Black's Law Dictionary. Indian. Aboriginal inhabitant of North America. Fraser versus Spokane. All right. So, like I said, yes, Indian is synonymous with Aboriginal inhabitant. So, like I told you before, yes, Indian is a misnomer, but it has political weight. Okay. It is a political status, it has weight. I'm not disputing that. All right. But again, when it comes to jurisdiction, sometimes we could run into a problem because also Indian was a misnomer for the Aboriginal inhabitants. All right, but they are interchangeable. Okay, it's interchangeable. Just wanted y'all to know that. All right, so just wanted to break all that down so we have a true understanding of what all this means. You're absolutely welcome. All right. So, guys, man, listen, I hope you enjoyed the build. I know the first part of it, like I said, I had to go there for a certain reason. All right. So let me just kind of summarize thing and conclude this build because I've been on for a little while. So here's the summary of things, right? Summarize. We were here in the Americas, living our lives. All right. We were in clans, tribes, families. All right. We had families. Families became, became clans. Clans became bands. Band became nations. Nations became confederacies. Okay. All right. That was our sequence of things. All right. The outside world didn't know about us. Okay. At least not on a global scale. All right. They didn't know about us. But when you look at the timeline of wars, when you search anything for the Americas, and I want anybody to put me to the test, don't take my word for it. I want you to do your own research. Find me any wars that was happening in the Americas in the 1100s or in the 1200s or in the 1300s. I haven't seen any. Okay? So once again, it led me to assume that we were just here chilling, doing our own thing. We may have had our little gripes amongst, different clans, tribes, right? But it wasn't to a point where it made global news. It didn't make CNN what would be called CNN back in those days. All right. But however, on the other side of the world, there were wars, heavy wars going on. And then it would be on CNN if there were a CNN back in those days. All right. So that was happening here because they were fighting each other. Now, wherever the pale man came in, whether he was in caves or not, I'm not here to debate that. The point of the matter is the pale man came to power, all right, and he fought so-called black people in Britain, in Scotland, in Ireland, in Castile, all over Europe and Africa. Okay? They fought and they gained power because the original nobles of Britain, they were actually dark-skinned people. Okay? So they lost that power. Now, when a lot of these so-called nobles lost that power, they made their way into the Americas. Now, mind you, some of them were already coming here. Some of them were already coming here not to conquer, okay? Just traveling, probably ended up here and end up staying, whatever, and cultures were already being mixed. But when we look at it from a conqueror's perspective, is when they lost their reign in 1492. A team of their mulatto children and them came to conquer. In other words, came with the religion, Islam, full force. That's when things started to really get heated in the Americas. All right. But they were strong. All right. So they started bringing slaves. And then they created their empire. They created their empire and put up the Moroccan flag. Okay. But Britain, what was happening on the other side now, what nobody's telling you, that the blackamoors in Britain, they were getting their ass whooped by the pale man. So they took over. So the pale man is like, man, listen, I'm assuming this. All right. The pale man said, listen, man, you know what? I remember what y'all did to us. Y'all ain't gonna have the Americas. No, we ain't giving you that. We want a piece of that. So the British started coming. You see what I'm saying? And wars were fought, all these different battles, you know, with the Indians first, the Indians and you know the Moors, and later it was the Indians and the Moors versus the British, or the British and the Indians versus the Moors. It was a mix and melee. All right. So when the 13 colonies, all that stuff was set up, you know, the Republic, all that stuff was set up, the United States rose and say, we're going to go to England, even if we are still colonized by England, we are going to go to England because remember, when they were colonized by England at that time, all right, even in prior times, they were colonized by so-called black people. Keep that in mind. The Negroes of that land, they were the true nobles until they lost their power. So the United States became in power and said, you know what, man, listen, we're going to cut down this cherry tree. We're going to put the Republic to the side. No more 13 colonies. We now dealing with the United States. Now it is our time. All right. Now it's the Christians' time. All right. And hence, this is where we are at today. So that is just to summarize everything I literally just put in the whole lecture. All right. So there you go. Woo. I know that was a lot, but I'm about to shut this down, man. I'm about to shut this down. If anybody have, any information that could, rebuttal any of that, please do a video and let me know, because like I said, I'm only looking for truth, man. I'm only looking for truth. And based on all my research, whether it may be going to the Library of Congress, they don't, I mean, literally, I've been searching and looking and searching and looking, can't find anything. So, which leads me to, think what I'm talking about is closer to the truth than what's being told. You know what I mean? And so for those of you who have supported the Cash App, thank you so much. It means a lot. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate that. Thank you. Is the thought that counts. I see somebody definitely supported. Thank you for that donation. I appreciate that. You know what I mean? Thank you. Okay. So here we go. All right. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. You know what I mean? It's all love. All right. It's all love. Thank you. Like I tell folks, is not the amount that you give, is the thought that counts. So I appreciate that. All right. No doubt. Thank you. I appreciate that, family. Appreciate that. So for all those of you who came late, please go over the video again. And, hey, do your research, man, because the whole goal for me is to dig deeper. Open up your mind to let you know this history is more than just what we think it is. Start looking at timeline outside of what we were taught. Start looking at those timelines. And now, once you start doing that, you will start seeing the difference. You see what I'm saying? Now you will start seeing the difference. Hold up. So if this was happening in the 1300s and the early 1400s, in the 1200s, there was wars in Britain, there was wars in Spain, there was wars in Africa, there was wars all over the place, but I can't find no records of wars in the Americas. So obviously, they brought all them wars here, man. They brought all of that there. That's it. All right. And then we cannot find, the exact truth so people could literally know who did what. So now we have to all put the pieces together. Got to go read 1,000,000 books. Got to go look into all kind of files to bring this and literally summarize everything. You feel me? Come on, man. It's crazy. It's crazy. But my goal is to keep searching. And it says, what the cherry tree, that is what that mean, cutting down. The cherry tree is basically symbolic for the Moorish flag. Okay, that red flag with the green star, that is basically what's considered the cherry tree. The cherry tree. All right. Queen Charlotte was a mulatto queen. All right, she was a mulatto. She was one of those children of a Caucasian, a pale woman, and more. All right. So, but anyway, guys, thank you, man. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate that. It's 10:18 now. I've been on for a minute, so you guys enjoy the rest of your continuation. Thank you so much for being a part of the build. All the link is in the description of the video, so you could go do your own research. All right. This is just the research that I did, and that's the conclusion that I came up with. So once again, just know about the SF 181 form and be mindful when those things are not mandatory. You see what I'm saying? That's not mandatory. All right. That is just for racial classifications, ethnic and racial classifications. And mind you, when everybody's telling you put white, you know what that means. When you call yourself white on that form, you are an original people of Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa. That's what it means. So be mindful of how you fill out these forms when everybody's telling you fill out these forms. All right. You might as well just take yourself out of your home by putting white if you're an original American. All right. And that's facts. Okay. Your highest standing on our land is original American. I mean, yes, I use Aboriginal American, which within international law, it means original inhabitant, but some people got a problem with that. You feel what I'm saying? And it becomes semantics. And they say, well, if it means original anyway, why not just use original? All right. So let's just say original. All right. So we are literally, we are gods. All right. God's manifest in the flesh. All right. God's manifest in the flesh of being original Americans. All right. So to end all discussion, that's where we at with it. All right. But once again, no disrespect to what transpired in history. That was a part of our history. My thing is, I just want the truth to be told so we could all get along. I keep telling Moors, I have nothing against y'all. I have nothing against y'all. Just tell the truth. History is gone, man. It's gone. Let us bring things to the table and speak the truth, because everything that history shows and all the documents is there to prove everything I'm saying. But you keep saying it's the white man stuff. No, it's not the white man stuff. You feel me? It's not, because if the white man couldn't read, the white man couldn't be the one who gave us etymology. You see what I'm saying? So, I mean, let's be real about it. You feel me? And if we even go look at Noah, we already did that, but let me share one bit of information before I go. Let me pull this up. All right, let's go Google. Let us put Noah's Webster 1828 dictionary. And I know you guys seen this before, but I'm showing you this for a reason. All right, let me just show you this for a reason. I'm showing you this for a reason. Okay, so let's click on this right here. Noah's Webster's 1828 dictionary, because everybody seemed to be using that, all right, as a point of reference, okay, for who an American is. Okay, an American. Now you see all this is making sense. American, a noun, a native of America, originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper-colored races found here in America by the Europeans. By the Europeans. Now let us go look back at this right here. Okay? Free white person, okay, includes all European Jews, more or less intermixed with peoples of Celtic, Scandinavian, Teutonic, Iberian, blah, 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 including Moorish inhabitants of Spain and Portugal. meaning all persons belonging to what? The European race. So when we go back here now and we look at Noah Webster's 1828 dictionary, who are the Europeans they're talking about? Who found us here? Found here by the Europeans. Found here by the Europeans. Let us go look at this. SF 181 form. An original people of Europe, Middle East, or North Africa. White. Those are the white people who found us here. It wasn't the pale man. Okay, it wasn't the pale man. Let us go look at it again. Found here by the Europeans. By the Europeans. SF 181 form, original peoples of Europe. Who are the original people of Europe? It is not the pale man. Ah, well, Chief, now it's making sense. All right, then. Here we go again. All right, original people of Europe. Those are the people of Europe. Now, that same dictionary, when you go, now, you see, here we go again. How can you tell me this is the white man stuff when you use that to say, well, I'm American, and let us go to the Noah's 1820 dictionary. But that same dictionary, when we put in more, what does it say? A tract of land overrun with heath, a marsh, a fen, a tract of wet, low ground, or ground covered with stagnant water. More, noun, a native of northern coast of Africa, called by the Romans color of people. Mauritania, the country of dark complexion people. The same country is now called Morocco, Tunis, and Algiers. So you cannot tell me that more means American when the same dictionary give it two different definitions. And then when we go to the SF 181 form, a lot of you tell everybody to fill out as white. What does it make you? An original European, the Middle East, or North African. When we go to Webster and look at American, it tell you who found us here? The Europeans. Come on, man. So like I said, I just like to, we just have to be able to show the facts. And we don't have to get into all the craziness. We don't have to hate each other. We know, all right, you know what? Our people had a past. You see what I'm saying? Our people had a past. It's okay. Some of our people did wrong. A lot of your people did wrong. But we are here today. What are we going to do to move forward? Because you are an extension of our relatives, of our family. And we have to accept that as a people. But we have to learn to live together, man. You feel me? All right? So, well, when you go look at the etymology of black, I mean, it just means pale. That's who the real black people are, pale. You know what I'm saying? Colorless, no color, etc., etc., etc. But all that stuff is just, again, legal terminologies. You see what I'm saying? So that's just what it is. You feel me? But I just wanted to kind of like conclude with that so people could see where I'm truly at with this. All right. So go ahead and do your research. And, I guess I'll see you guys on the next build. So have yourself a great continuation. Peace, love, and light. And let me just say, man, again, we are at a time because I look at it this way, right? Based on the research that I've been doing, if we populated the world, then that means that everybody else is us. So if we are one people, why are we fighting amongst each other? Why are we fighting so hard to make this one group that, fighting to make this other group this? We don't have to do that. If we are just one people, man, we are one people. You know what I'm saying? And that's all it is. You see that's all it is. If we are one people, let's just be one people. But the mere fact you want to take us out of being who we truly are as the original Americans and call us a certain name, then I have to make sure that that information is put into context. So everybody could get a timeline and see for themselves how all this came to play. How were you able to have, how were you able to have an empire on our land? How did that transpire? How did you lose it? You see, everybody's talking, well, this is this, and well, let's tell the truth. Let's tell the truth so everybody could see what it was. And this is where we are at today. All right. So, brothers and sisters, be careful. If you are not an original people of Europe, North Africa, or the Middle East, don't go filling out that SF-181 form and put white on there. Okay. Personally, I wouldn't. Me personally, I wouldn't fill it out. You know what I'm saying? But if you feel you need to, don't put white unless you are, okay, that's who you are, all right? And you are North African, Middle East, or an original European, all right? So, okay, so yes, they are the original Europeans. I'm not a European. I'm an original American, all right? So once again, they came here and mixed with our people. You dig? So again, we have to, but like we said, if everybody came from here and went over the world, then eventually I guess everybody got to be our children. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying. All right. So it is what it is, man. But anyway, guys, thank you, man. I'm out. We'll talk a little later. All right. Peace and love.